फ्रेंड्स, ये वीडियो है MCO 04 बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट, एंड लेट मी टेल यू कि ये वन ऑफ द इजीएस्ट चैप्टर है MCO सेकेंड ईयर का। एंड ज्यादा कुछ इसके अंदर है नहीं, मतलब 8 10 15 क्वेश्चन भी आप अच्छे से रिवाइज कर लें, मोटा मोटी सबका जो सॉल्यूशंस हैं, पॉइंट्स हैं, ऑलमोस्ट एक जैसे हैं, नॉट मच डिफरेंस। आप जानते हैं इनके बारे में, एक्सपैंड करके लिख सकते हैं। ठीक है, तो फ्रेंड्स स्टार्ट करते हैं MCO 04 एंड लेट्स सी फ्यू इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन। हियर वी गो फ्रेंड्स, एंड लेट्स सी व्हाट इज दिस बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट ऑल अबाउट। एंड ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कि जो चैप्टर का नाम है बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट और वहां से क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में आए नहीं, नॉट पॉसिबल। यू विल गेट वन श्योर शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन ऑन बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट, एंड ये कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स हैं जो आपको पढ़ने हैं। सबसे पहले तो आपको समझना है कि व्हाट इज बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट। इट इज वेरी सिंपल, इट इज द सम ऑफ द टोटल इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स। क्योंकि देखिए, बिजनेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कुछ इंटरनल फैक्टर्स होते हैं, फोर्सेस होते हैं, एंड देयर आर सम एक्सटर्नल फोर्सेस। इंटरनल फोर्सेस पे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का फुल कंट्रोल होता है, एंड ऑन द एक्सटर्नल फोर्सेस द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डजंट हैव एनी कंट्रोल, दे आर आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल, right? So this is business environment, and this environment, these factors do affect the working and operations of the business, right? सबसे पहले समझते हैं कि इसके मेन फीचर्स क्या है। यहाँ पे मैंने लिखे हुए मेन फीचर्स, इट इज द सम ऑफ इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स। ये तो समझ में आ गया। एंड दिस फैक्टर्स आर डायनेमिक। डायनेमिक मीन्स फ्लेक्सिबल, दे चेंज विद द टाइम। जैसे जैसे टाइम चेंज होता है वैसे वैसे ये फैक्टर्स भी चेंज करते हैं। ठीक है, तो दे आर डायनेमिक इन नेचर, देन दे आर वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स, दे आर नॉट इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड। इफ यू आर गोइंग टू स्टडी दिस एनवायरनमेंट, से इकोनॉमिक और टेक्नोलॉजिकल और पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन, इट बिकम्स वेरी टफ, दे आर नॉट इजी टू स्टडी। दैट्स व्हाई दे आर कॉम्प्लेक्स एंड दे आर अनसर्टन। यू कैन नॉट प्रेडिक्ट दिस एनवायरनमेंट, यू कैन नॉट प्रेडिक्ट व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन tomorrow or in future, right? तो ये points आपको याद रखने हैं। If you get a question on characteristics or features of business environment, you can expand it. The next one is importance. Why business enterprise study business environment? Why they are important? What is their significance? So these are the things. First, you can club these 2 points: opportunities and threats, to identify, to find out कि what are the opportunities are there for growth and expansion of business, and similarly we can also find out कि what are the threats, like threats from political situation or competitors or government or international conditions and situations. So like that, so you can also find out opportunities and and also threats. The next one is the resources. As we know, the resources are limited, right? And you have to use the available resources in a very judicious way. बहुत अच्छे से यूज करना है, that is called optimum use of resources, right? So to use these resources you need to study business environment. The next one is adaptability. Adaptability का मतलब होता है कि कोई कंडीशन में अडॉप्ट कर लेना, I mean एडजस्ट हो जाना। तो बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट को कोई भी चेंजिंग सिचुएशन में एडजस्ट होने के लिए it has to study business environment so that it can quickly adjust. Then comes it helps in policy making, because all these factors they all give rise to this policy making. Like management takes decisions, management frames policies, so all these policies are framed on the basis of this, right? So in that way you can expand. The next topic is the different types of environment. Now we can classify the environment into micro environment and macro environment. Micro means very small, macro means large, big. And micro environment, these environment are controllable. Like an organization can have control on micro environment because they directly affect the activities and operations of the firm. Whereas macro, this environment indirectly affect the working of the firm, and a firm or a business enterprise has very less control over macro environment. Okay, let's see what are the important micro environment. You can say elements or components or types. एग्जाम में अगर कुछ भी आता है तो यू कैन एक्सपैंड, कुछ भी नहीं सूझे देन ऑल्सो राइट, डू नॉट लीव योर कॉपीज ब्लैंक. ओके सो ओके, तो माइक्रो में आ गया जैसे कस्टमर, कॉम्पिटिटर्स, सप्लायर्स, एम्प्लॉइज, पब्लिक एंड गवर्नमेंट. सो दिस आर द मेन कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ माइक्रो एनवायरनमेंट. एंड इसके बारे में ऑलवेज कंपनी कंटिन्यूसली रिसर्च करती है, उसको अच्छे से स्टडी करती है, बिकॉज उसको सस्टेन करना है मार्केट में. सो इट हैज टू स्टडी ऑल दिस कंपोनेंट्स. दीज आर वन ऑफ द वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट्स फॉर द सर्वाइवल ऑफ ए बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज. देन कम्स मैक्रो. नाउ दीज आर नॉट controllable, but they play a very important role. Like for example, economic environment in the country, like the government policy, उनके taxes जो rules frame करती है, तो every organization has to go with those rules. तो ये इकोनॉमिक एनवायरनमेंट के अंदर आप लिख सकते हैं. पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन कंट्री में कैसी है, एज फार एज इंडिया इज कंसर्न, बहुत पॉलिटिकल इंस्टेबिलिटी बहुत ज्यादा है यहाँ पे. फ्रीक्वेंट इलेक्शंस, कन्फ्लिक्ट्स, लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, स्ट्राइक्स, लॉकआउट्स, बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम है. तो यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम होती है बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट को. अगर फ्रीक्वेंटली इलेक्शंस हो रहे हैं तो दैट क्रिएट्स different political parties have different ideologies, right? So when the party changes तो उनके policies भी change हो जाते हैं, so that creates a problem for the business environment. Now comes this socio-cultural environment. I think this is one of the most important. इसके ऊपर एक separately question भी बन सकता है 10 or 20 marks का. As the name implies, socio-cultural, that means it is related with the society and its culture. So this is one of the most important component of macro environment. And ये environment के अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, जैसे for example language of the people, then their religion, then their family structure, their income. ऐसे बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो एक सोसाइटी के अंदर प्रिवेल करती है, एंड बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज को इसको स्टडी करना ही करना पड़ता है. तो दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, सोशियो कल्चरल एनवायरनमेंट. देन कम्स टेक्नोलॉजी. एज वी नो द टेक्नोलॉजी इज फास्ट चेंजिंग, द वर्ल्ड इज चेंजिंग, एवरीबॉडी वांट्स टू यूज द लेटेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी. तो ये भी एक एनवायरनमेंट है जिसको कंटिन्यूसली एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्टडी करती है. देन कम्स द लीगल दैट रिफर्स टू द लॉज, the different types of acts which are related with the business. So an organization has to abide by those acts, it has to follow those rules, the legal procedures which are being adopted by the government. Then lastly, demographic, like how is the population, the sex ratio, the infant mortality rate, the literacy rate. So all these are factors of demographic. So an organization should also study. एक और क्वेश्चन जो बार बार एग्जाम्स में स्ट्राइक करता है एग्जाम्स में, दैट इज एनवायरमेंटल स्कैनिंग. स्कैनिंग हम लोग जानते हैं, स्कैनिंग हम लोग ब्रेन की स्कैनिंग करवाते हैं, बॉडी की स्कैनिंग करवाते हैं, हम लोग पेपर की स्कैनिंग करवाते हैं. तो लाइक दैट बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट को स्टडी करने के लिए बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज ऑल्सो परफॉर्म स्कैनिंग विच इज कॉल्ड एनवायरमेंटल स्कैनिंग. और इन सिंपल वर्ड्स वी शुड रिमेंबर दिस वर्ड, that is monitoring, how the company monitors the business environment. So that process is called environmental scanning. बहुत important concept है. and यहाँ पे जो question आपको exams में मिलता है, that is regarding the process, how the organization will conduct or study the different components of environment. कुछ तो रास्ता है, तो ये रास्ता है. पहला रास्ता क्या है? Identify the environmental variables. Environment के जो variables हैं, like customers, suppliers, economic policies, political situation, socio-cultural, बहुत सारे variables हैं. तो उनको like the most important variable is to be picked up, और उसके बारे में फिर we gather information, right? We study. Then, like, from what sources we will get information about those variables? From newspaper, from internet, from any other sources, whatever the sources are available. So वहां से हम लोग information collect करेंगे. This is the second step. The third step is to select the appropriate approach. Now this is very important. Basically, in environmental scanning, we use three approaches: systematic, ad hoc, and processed. Systematic approach, as the name implies, systematically move करती है कंपनी, एक एक करके डिटेल में सारी चीजें, सारी इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करती है अबाउट द वेरिएबल. एंड इन एड हॉक, एड हॉक में मोर और लेस जहां से कुछ भी मिल जाए, दैट इज एड हॉक. ओके, तो उसी इंफॉर्मेशन को फिर कंपनी यूज करती है स्टडी पर्पस में. देन प्रोसेस्ड जो ऑलरेडी द कॉम्पिटिटर्स और एनी अदर एजेंसी which are already performed this environmental scanning, the company tries to analyze those processed scanning, and then it uses for its own purpose. And lastly, the technique, like what technique it will use to study, to evaluate the environment. MCO 04 का one of the most important chapter, and इसके ऊपर question होता ही होता है every year, and that is economic reform policy. Now, economic reform policy, as far as India is concerned, after the independence, सबसे पहली बार हुई थी 1956 में, ठीक है. वहां पे कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट इकोनॉमिक डिसीजंस गवर्नमेंट ने लिए थे, एंड आफ्टर दैट इन 1991, दिस पर्टिकुलर ईयर 1991 was one of the landmark in the economic development of India. Right? उस टाइम पे आई थिंक वाजपेयी वाज द प्राइम मिनिस्टर, एंड ही टुक सम वेरी वेरी लुक्रेटिव एंड इंपॉर्टेंट इकोनॉमिक डिसीजंस. तो ये क्वेश्चन को बहुत अच्छे से प्रिपरेशन करना है, एंड ये कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट डिसीजंस हैं जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने लिए थे. द फर्स्ट वन, इंडस्ट्रियल लाइसेंसिंग. प्रायर टू 1991, there are a lot of industries. If you wanted to set up one industry or factory, you had to take licenses from the government. But after 1991, all the requirement of the licenses were removed, except some 5 to 6 strategic industries. Now, strategic industries, that means all those military weapons and chemicals which are hazardous in nature. Then power, energy. So there are some 6 sectors. Apart from that, now like everything was opened in India. If you want to set up a textile factory, well and good, you can start without a license. So like that. Then comes FDI. FDI is foreign direct investment. This was encouraged because we know that what is the importance of FDI in a country. It plays a very important role for the economic growth and development of a country, right? So this was encouraged, and a lot of SEZ and EOQ. So all these units were established where foreign direct investment was encouraged, right? Then comes technology. The government opened all the doors for foreign technology. Now the people, the industrialists, the businessman can import technology at a very cheaper price. Right, like the tariffs and the import-export restrictions, they were all simplified, and some were removed. So like that. Then comes these three. These three are the most important one: privatization, liberalization, and globalization. Privatization means converting the public sector enterprises into the private sector enterprises. That means disinvestment, right? As you like, there are many such industries like MTNL, CSC, where prior to 1991 they were purely government company, and then they were handed over to the private participation. That means the private individuals can now manage those companies. Okay, but the state was basically this privatization, and this one was done on a 49 and 51 ratio. That means 51 stake will be taken over by the government, and 49 will be by the private individuals. Then comes liberalization. As the name implies, liberalization means removing all the trade restrictions And basically, this liberalization was due to the pressure of WTO, World Trade Organization, because it continuously started forcing India to liberalize its trade policies so that the foreign companies can enter into India and do business. So this was again a very, very important step, decision taken by the government. Then comes globalization. As we know, globalization. Now, globalization means integration of the whole world economy. That means free movement of goods, services, people, technology, capital, everything. So that is called globalization. Without no trade restrictions, no licensing, no custom duties. So globalization is a very big concept, and you might get short notes on this also. These three: privatization or disinvestment, liberalization, globalization. One of the most important topics of MCO 04, and you should collect, you should know, more and more about this. These are the important ones. Then comes SSI. SSI stands for small scale industries. As we know, they are very important to provide self-employment. And in India, we have a lot of unemployment problems. So they will relieve the pressure. Then comes there are a lot of reforms introduced in insurance and banking sectors. And friends, after 1991, you might have seen that all these private banks or international banks, they started coming into India, like ICICI, Axis Bank, Standard Chartered Bank. A lot of international or foreign insurance companies which started coming in India and doing business. So, like that, all this leads to the place where now we are standing in 2022, right? So thanks to this policy and continuously this policy, there are again some changes from time to time. So you should study about this. The next topic is a much easier topic. We have been studying from class 11, and this is about Consumer Protection Act 1986. We know about this because this act was made to protect the interest of the consumers from exploitation. Okay, and this is the most important part of this act, like where six rights were given to the consumers. The first one, right to safety, that means to use all standard materials. Then right to choose, a consumer can choose from variety of goods. Then right to be informed, he should know all the details of the product, how to use, where to use, like that. Then right to consumer education, whatever the programs and the seminars that are being conducted by the government. So a consumer has the right to to attend those programs. Then right to be heard, like whatever the salesperson or any other such people. So you can hear from that. So like that. So these are few six important rights that have been given to the consumer. And apart from this act, sometimes you can get short notes on Environmental Act. So this is also a very important act. Then we have Sale of Goods Act. Then we have Contract Act. So these are all under regulations. So you should also read little bit about this. Friends, the next important question is from financial market and or money market in simple words. And like what is this market all about? Because we know one market where we usually go to buy fruits, vegetables, and ration, but this is a bit different. Now here, basically, stocks are bought and sold by the company. That is share market in simple words. It is not exactly the same, but in simple words, very simple words. And these are the important instruments that are traded in money market. Now, what are these important? Like treasury bills, call money, repo and reverse repo rate. It came in June 2022. Then commercial paper, CP, and certificate of deposits. So all these instruments, these are called instruments of money market, which are generally traded to raise short-term money from the market, right? And there are a few instruments which are issued by RBI, Reserve Bank of India, or any corporations or any such banks. Okay, so all these have all these instruments. They have different rate of interest, and the maturity period is generally it is less than 1 year. because money market is a market where the companies or corporations can raise short-term requirement of funds and basically for working capital requirement. Okay, so this is also a very important question, and you should define all this, right? And those who have taken my study materials, they might have seen that I have written this in expansion because this topic is very okay. Friends, let's try to understand the difference between primary market and secondary market. Just now I told you about money market and primary market. Basically, in both the markets, securities are bought and sold. And I have written here a very simple, the difference which can make your concept very clear. In primary market, here new securities are bought and sold. That means the company issues here IPO. Okay, when a company newly issued its shares, it is generally through primary market. And secondary market, here the existing securities are bought and sold. You can also, this is, you can term this as share market, where we generally buy and sell shares every day. So that is secondary market, where existing securities are bought and sold. And here the securities here, there are basically two parties. The first one is the company which issues the securities, and the second one, investor. Now, investor may be like the common public, any corporation, bank, government, whatever it is. And in here, the trading takes place between investor to investor. That means it is mostly traded among the general public. And in primary market, basically there is no chance of selling here because the company here issues. That means it sell off its securities. That means in this market you can only buy securities. You cannot sell them. And here we can buy and we can also sell our securities. So it is so easy, and this question is also very important. Important question can be from stock exchange. As we know, like stock exchange is an institution. It is an organization which manages and looks after all the stock market in India, and SEBI is the primary the primary controller of the stock exchanges in India. So basically, when we talk about stock exchanges, we have two types of stock exchanges. One is NSE and the other is BSE, National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. So like this. Okay, so we are not concerned with this. We are concerned with the different functions of a stock exchange. These are the basic functions like liquidity. Now, liquidity of the investment. We can convert the investment into liquid cash at any time that we like. So that is called liquidity of investment. Then pricing. Pricing of securities. Because it is a place where the prices of securities are automatically controlled by the forces of demand and supply of the shares, stocks. When the demand increases, the prices of the stock also increases. So it follows the law of demand process. Then comes safety of your investment. Your investment in the stock exchange should be safe. There are no unfair or cheating activities in share market. So this is one of the primary function of stock exchange to to create safer environment for investment. Then we have mobilization. Mobilization of savings. We generally save a part of our income, and we can invest that savings into share market or stock market, right? So in this way, what will happen? This mobilization leads to investment, and investment again leads to capital formation. And capital is one of the most important asset for any economy. Okay, the next one is speculation. Actually, obviously, like there are speculations, we generally predict, yes, okay, the prices of the stocks are going to rise in the future, so we generally purchase them for a higher return. So here, it always encourages speculative activities, but healthy speculation. It's not any type of fraudulent speculation. That is one of the important function of stock exchange. Friends, the next question is also a very common question. Almost every year this strikes in the exams, and this is from SSI, small scale industries. Now, as we know, the investment is less than 1 crore in small scale industries, and these are the three concepts that you should learn from this particular chapter. The first one is institutional framework. Now, the government of India has set up quite a number of institutions for the promotion of small scale industries. Now, what are those? SIDCO, SISI, NSIC, SIDBI. So basically, these four institutions generally they promote by providing finance, technology, training, skills, so like that. And you might get short notes on this. So do learn this, it's very important. Then comes promotion. What are the other measures taken by the government of India to promote SSI? As we know, SSI is quite helpful for the economic development of our country because it provides employment opportunities. Then the disparity between the different states, so that is also reduced. The difference between the rich and poor, that is reduced, and it ultimately it helps in the growth of exports, rising GDP. There are a lot of points. There are a lot of advantages of SSI. So for this, the government has taken the following steps. It has reserved few items for only to be manufactured in small scale, like plastics, leather items, like agarbattis. So these are specifically, they are reserved for small scale. Then comes the government provides a lot of incentives, subsidies in the backward areas like Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Bihar, Orissa, where the small businessmen can promote, they can increase their business. And then comes exemption of duties. Duties here like excise duties. So government charges quite a good percentage of excise duty, and here the duty has been exempted for small scale industries. Okay, then comes quality and technology. The government also provides and also assists to manufacture good quality of goods by using latest technology. It also provides, it also arrange for the technology, the latest machines for their development. Then comes industrial parks. You might have seen it's a very popular thing. We know about this. Says special economic zones, economic parks. So like that, there are many industrial parks which are generally set up for basically for exports. Whatever is manufactured in these areas in industrial parks. A very good example is Whitefield area in Bangalore, where there are a lot of companies which manufactures software or hardware which are made for exports only. So like this, there are also garment parks where garments are manufactured and exported. So like this, you can write all these points in your answer. Then comes problems. What is the problem happening with small scale sector in India? Why it is not being developed to our anticipation? So first thing is shortage of raw materials. यहाँ पे raw material की बहुत किल्लत है. That means they are not getting good quality and adequate raw materials for production. Secondly, lack of finance. Now this is the most important one. The small scale businessmen, they suffer from this drawback. They are not getting enough funds to invest in the business, and even they are basically trapped by the private money lenders. Then comes technology. These sectors basically uses backward and traditional technology instead of latest technology. So that has become a big problem. Then comes marketing problem. They often have problems with marketing because there are a lot of middlemen who buy at a very lower prices from this and sell at a higher prices in the market. So they are not getting that proper channel to enter into the market. Okay, then comes entrepreneurial skill, business skill. They are lacking this skill because everyone cannot be a businessman, and these are basically Marwaris. They are all gifted with this. So, they lack this entrepreneur or business skill, and they fail to manage their business properly. And then lastly, the effect of globalization. As we know, like globalization means there are a lot of MNCs and TNCs. They are coming into India with international standard of goods at a very competitive price. So they fail to compete with MNC product. So this is one negative effect of globalization, due to which many of the SSIs have been closed down. Friends, the next question is on globalization. As we know, it's a very common subject, and right from class 10 we are studying about this. And globalization is the integration of all the economies of the world. That means removing the restrictions for the free flow of goods, services, capital, technology, and a lot of other things. So, the basic object of globalization is to increase the international trade. And WTO, this concept was introduced by WTO, World Trade Organization, and like the main impact of globalization as far as India is concerned. Let's see, there is a rise in GDP. GDP, like when the foreign capital moves in our country, so we can manufacture more of goods, we can export those goods, and we can earn a lot of foreign exchange. So that adds up to GDP, gross domestic product. And then comes there is a reduction in poverty, because both these are actually interrelated. As we know, India suffering from poverty, and due to globalization, the poverty has been reduced to some extent, no doubt about that, because it provides employment opportunities in MNCs. A lot of people are working here, and due to globalization, MNC are entering into India, and that gives rise to employment to the people, and hence that reduces poverty. So like this, then comes industries. Now industries here, that means domestic industries. So domestic industries, they also provide raw materials to MNCs, right? So that helps them to grow. Sometimes there is a negative effect also, like there are some small scale industries which cannot compete with MNC. So ultimately they close down. So both positive and negative effect are there. Then there is FDI, foreign direct investment. Due to globalization, a lot of capital is moving into India. Foreigners are making investment in India, in industries, in stock market, in banking, in insurance. So there are a lot of sectors. So like this, then comes standard of living. People of India are getting international brands at a cheaper price. So that ultimately increases the standard of living of the people. Let's move on to the next topic, and this is transfer of technology. As we know, generally the European countries, or the countries in the far east, so they are much more developed. They use more latest technology. So sometimes they transfer their technology to other countries, right? They there are different sources or mediums through which they transfer their technology. They have their patent right for that, and these are the basic ways through which transfer of technology can take place. The first one is outright sale of technology. It sells off the technology to other firm for a good consideration. Then comes subcontracting. It can take a contract of the domestic firm, and it uses its technology in completing the project, and after completing the project it moves back to its country. Then comes franchising. Now this is also a very common thing, and through franchising also, the firm transfer firm means foreign firm. Foreign company transfers the technology to the domestic company, and then it can also make a direct export to foreign country which needs its technology. And lastly is the most important one, strategic alliances. It can make alliances, partnership, joint venture with the domestic firms, and mutually they start to manufacture or produce a certain commodity. Now friends, apart from this, there are some other short notes or distinction you might get. So you should revise those topics. Those topics can be you should read about WTO, World Trade Organization. Then we have from FEMA. You might get a short note on this, right? FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act, and after this, you might get a question on that. This is also a very important. Quite often it comes in the exam cut, and after that, you should read about Indian Patent Act. So this is again a good question for short notes, and you might get for from IPR. IPR stands for Intellectual Property Rights, and generally we get questions from this. So this is also a very important one. These are few important questions, and try to learn and revise this, and I hope your exams will be beyond expectations. So thank you very much for watching, and a very best of luck for the exams.